And we have present from the city, Sean Warnke, Lyle Vance, Diana Dufrey, Jeff Reese, Roger Friedel, Lyle Honbring, Brett Rhodey, Lindsay Nessen, Paul Fulgham, Kurt Fertig, Dustin Erickson. Have I missed anyone? Oh, Mark! I missed Mark. Oh, and the librarian too. Okay, we're glad to have you with us this evening.
Janelle asked one.
And we have, okay, nobody's requested to be on the opening ceremony, so I have asked Lyle to offer a word of prayer for us, after which Brett will lead us in the pledge, and we will be praying, and if somebody's uncomfortable with the prayer, you can step out and join us in a moment. Otherwise, Lyle.
Our Father in heaven, as we come before Thee at this time, we're thankful for the many blessings which we have, for the opportunity of gathering together this evening in City Council meeting. We're grateful for the attendance we have here, for the interest in our community that we have. We ask that Thou would help us as we work through the agenda, that we might be able to do so in a civil, and manner that would be best for the city, and that we might be able to listen to all the participants and consider their concerns. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone, please stand. Please pledge allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a few guests in here, and we appreciate you coming to Tremonton City Council this evening. But I've already warned the scouts. We always look forward to scouts coming to our city council. But they have to stand up and tell us who they are and what troop they're from. Do you have a clue?
We know who we are.
Okay.
Who do you want to start with?
Whoever wants to. That's a bad question.
We gotta have
The back row.
leaders too.
Leaders first?
Leaders.
Okay. My name is Matt Rowley. I can't tell you what troop we're from, but we are out in the Bothwell area. And we're combined with the troop from, I guess, the local area here, right?
Fairview.
First Ward area.
Yeah, Fairview First Ward.
So we got Tremont 7th and Fairview First Ward.
Okay.
That are represented. And we have Cub Scouts all the way through 11-year-olds with us tonight.
They've got to stand and introduce themselves.
All right. I guess that means my boy gets to start.
My name is Brigham Rowley, and this is my dad, and I'm a bear, and that's my brother. My name is Brody Rowley, and that's my dad and my brother, and I am here and I am a Weeblo. No, 11-year-old. I am Rowdy Covert, and I am in the Weeblos.
I'm Doug Ayed. I'm the leaders with the 11-year-olds in the Fairview First Ward. And just a point of reference, everyone knows Steve Battis. I bought his house across the street from the church. These two are my two stepsons, and they'll go next.
Caleb Smart, I'm here with the 11-year-olds, so I'm helping them out. Their scout stuff's been awesome with them. Thank you.
He's not my stepson.
No, not like that. These two over here, one.
Do any of you know your pack?
I do.
Okay, good.
I'm Ricky Campbell, and I'm 12, and I'm in the Young Men's. I'm Justice Campbell, and I'm 10 years old. And this is my brother, and this is my stepdad. And I'm Smith, and I'm with the 11-year-olds.
And your pack is?
613.
I'm Jake Draney, and I'm with those guys. I'm 11.
We are glad to have you with us tonight, and I hope you enjoy your evening. Thank you for coming. Council, we have an agenda. Any questions on the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda for this evening.
Motion made by Diana, second by Lyle B. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of November 6th. Any questions on the minutes from November 6th?
I make a motion we approve the minutes from the 6th.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Brett, second by Lyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, and we have Years of Service Awards, and we have one of them here. Yes, Janelle Esplin, 10 years serving as the Assistant Librarian for Tremonton City. And we have two other people, yes, and we have two other people that have got a 10-year award. Jenny Christensen, who is a Senior Center Assistant Administrator, and Laura Lee Woolsey for 5 years. Thank you very much for your service to Tremonton City. Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay. Public hearing. This is time we have them occasionally. This is a chance to hear your opinions on issues relating to Tremonton City. First of all, I'm going to let Sean explain what exactly we're having the first public hearing on, and then if there's any public that would like to comment. Sean?
So which, I'm not sure, I can't look at the agenda here. Is it the AED or the street?
The street.
Oh, okay. Great. Lindsay will scroll to some exhibits that will help explain the issue. So several months ago, I had a conversation with Crump Reese, and we were talking about essentially their plans to expand their business within the existing location. Part of that included that expansion would encroach upon a city right-of-way. And essentially right now, there's two entrances into those neighborhoods. One's at 650 and one's at 480. As you know, we recently completed 480 West, so that is a complete road and provides an outlet for Chavez Estates. And I think more specifically, the 650 services Sandalwood. Right now you can see, if you could, can you scroll in a little bit more or zoom in a little bit more? So the proposal that we have is 650 West, which is the existing street. And the expansion plans would, as I mentioned, from Crump's encroach upon into 650 right-of-way. And so the proposal is to vacate 650 and create another new street that would line up with 600 West, the existing 600 West. So it would essentially be located along the property line there in close proximity to Motel 6, and it would connect into Main Street. From a transportation standpoint, we believe that this is a better alignment in that it provides better circulation into this neighborhood, where you would essentially have, instead of a jogging street, you would essentially have a straighter approach. Right now, 650 West is essentially considered an offsetting intersection because there's three intersections within close, two different streets within close proximity. And right now, when we have offsetting intersections, we like to see them at 150. And this current intersection of 650 connected to 600 West, and I think also to, or 700 West and 600 is less than the desirable spacing requirements. Additionally, as we've shown the proposal to UDOT in conversations with them, they would like and will require the city to install a right turn lane into this new intersection. So if you would scroll down, Lindsay, to the next slide, you can see that there it is, that essentially right-hand turn lane, which is an enhancement. So for several reasons, city staff believes that from a transportation and safety standpoint that this is a better alignment. And so for that reason, we're supportive of the proposal to vacate, and we're listed as co-petitioners. And then the other element that is beneficial to just the general city and the tax base is essentially the expansion of Crump's. Crump's and other retailers provide quite a bit of tax sales tax to the city, which essentially helps to the city to provide services. And it also has a secondary benefit in this location, in that it's in a CDA. So essentially, we're trying to revitalize the area of within the CDA, because essentially any increase in taxable value is captured by the Tremonton City RDA, which is essentially the city council acting in a different capacity, but essentially that added tax revenue is targeted to improve this general corridor from essentially 7th West down to, on Main Street, down to 3rd to 2nd East, which I'm happy to talk a little more about. It's kind of hard to understand that element or aspect of the proposal, but it is important for property values to continue to increase within this business district, because it gives the city RDA some tools and financial resources to help improve vitality of our downtown, which is an area of focus. So that's the proposal. It's a public hearing. As you know, it's essentially, we've invited the public to come and to give their insights, express their comments and concerns about the proposal, and not necessarily that we answer those, but you essentially listen to them and consider those as part of the proposal. I would also say, so on the agenda is the public hearing. There's also an ordinance that's listed. It's essentially a step process where the city is holding the public hearing. If and when the council decides to consider approving the ordinance, there's still a lot of details that need to be worked out, and essentially the ordinance wouldn't become effective until we can work through those details with Crumps. Details would include such things as utility easements that are needed within 650 or 650 West, to the timing, to the construction of the new road.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so please come up and state your name.
Are there any restrictions on times or anything like that, or?
Not that I know of. 5 minutes, 3 minutes.
My name's Randall Payne, and I live on the corner of 108 South, 700 West. So the Crumps temporary lot is in my front yard. I have several concerns about the process. One being the only recourse, as Sean said, with this part of the hearing, is that in order to oppose it, I have to prove material damage. That's state statute. Material damage being different than nominal damages, and unless and until we know what's going to happen with that site, the next step in the process that he alluded to, we can't prove that. We don't know what's going to happen to our property values and to our neighborhood, because we don't know what's going to happen at this point. But if this ordinance passes and this street passes, the next step is a foregone conclusion. You're not going to vacate the street and put in the new street without giving permission for the upgrades. So it's a little difficult for us as residents to accomplish the law the way it's written. Secondly, I think there are some things that this plan does not address. When the shopping center entrance at 400 South or 400 West approximately was created, it approximately lines up with the entrance at 480 to Chavez Estates. That has created a terrible traffic disaster. It's a disaster waiting to happen. My wife has been almost hit twice. People are coming out of Chavez and going straight across to that shopping center. The people coming out of that shopping center are turning across both lanes to go east. So if you move 650 to 600, you've now essentially doubled the traffic in that same area trying to merge into that location. So I'm concerned about traffic flow there. The right-hand turn lane that's specified by UDOT will do essentially nothing. Traffic does not come from the west to Sandalwood. It comes from the east. And so you've got multiple turning lanes there within a block and a half of each other on Main Street. You've created an issue there, and that's going to have to be dealt with. Again, Sean and I have talked a little bit, and I know kind of what Crump's proposal is there, but if I remember correctly, in 2011, the city council issued Crump's a variance, a temporary variance, for the lot that they currently own there. That was to be a 1-year variance. I remember that because the city penalized me when we roto-milled the streets for not having curb and gutter on the north side of my house. They roto-milled that street and then refused to pave it because I didn't have curb and gutter. They have been allowed to be there for 7 years with no curb and gutter. Every time it rains, that drains into my yard and into the yard across the street. Now, when we redid the street, if you were to dig a hole in my garage entrance, the cement is 24 inches deep. We built it up, and the city matched that to try and alleviate some of that drainage issue, but it didn't. The water still pools there. It's not as deep as it used to be. It does now eventually pool high enough that it will start to go around the corner. But in the winter, and especially in the early spring when it's raining, I have a duck pond. That in combination with the poor quality of the chip seal that was done there most recently means that north gutter is completely full all the time. If we don't deal with that drainage issue, it's just going to be worse. If they pave that, and that's where we don't know what the site's going to look like. If they pave that, it's going to increase that amount of water. It's going to increase the amount of that chip seal gravel that comes across there. If you were to stick a shovel into my park strip right now, I can't keep the grass alive. It's 6 inches deep in gravel now, because every time the city plows, my park strips fill with gravel. So those issues need to be addressed up front, not after we've dealt with the street and vacating it and stuff like that. We need to know what's going to happen there. I took a drive last night after dark, and I know this is just it may not even be a fair comparison, but I went down to the Hanson Chevrolet dealership in Brigham City to see what a modern Chevrolet dealership looks like at night. It's already my home, and Dee Madsen, who lives behind me, we already have had to install blackout curtains because of the light that they put on Main Street, that flashing electric light. We've talked to them about it a couple of times. They're in compliance with city regulations, so they don't care. If that becomes a full lighted car lot, what property value do I have left? So is it going to be fenced? We don't know. Is there going to be curb and gutter? We don't know. There are so many unknowns there that I don't know how to prove the material damage that the statute requires me to prove. I'm concerned about traffic flow. I'm concerned about impact to my property value. The other thing that I want to say, and then I'll sit down, is over the years we have fooled with the stop signs on the corner of 650 West, or 650 South and then 700 South in order to slow traffic there. If you go look at my water meter, it's on a 40-degree angle like that. It's been run over so many times by especially young people who go too fast around that corner and end up on my front lawn. If we move that street to 600, we've now lost any control of speed from 600 to 700. You've created a drag strip there, and my corner goes back to being turn number 2 in Indianapolis. So I'm concerned about that as well, about traffic flow through that area. Traffic flow has increased there because of the subdivision to the west, and so I think it will only get worse. So those are my concerns. I thank you for listening to me.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kathy Allen, and I live just a few houses down from Randy. And he's addressed many of the same concerns that I have. Very concerned about what it's going to do to our property values. Sandalwood has really struggled for quite a while, and with the housing boom, it's finally starting to come around again, and people are buying the homes and fixing them up, and it's not only feeling like a better property value, but also a safer neighborhood. And I am very concerned what this is going to do to that. the fencing behind Crump's lot is a chain link fence now, and they have had a shade cloth on it in the past, which is now ripped and tattered and looks terrible. To add that onto our neighborhood, again, you know, with double space, you're making it very hard for us to have people willing to come in and buy in the neighborhood because it looks terrible. And that again drives our property values down. I'm also very concerned, like Randy said, about the lighting. Further down the street, we still see the flashing light of the sign. It lights up the neighborhood, the top half of the neighborhood. And also, when they start putting up big lights in their lot so people can see the cars at night, it will illuminate our entire block and make life miserable. Thus again, making it very hard to sell a home on the street. And once again, the homes go into decay. And so it's all about not just quality of life on our block and in our neighborhood, but it's also about property value. Are we going to be able to sell homes on the block? Are we going to be able to rejuvenate the neighborhood further? We're just now starting to get, you know, new young families on the block, and it is rejuvenating the entire neighborhood. It's working down. But that will stop if the neighborhood becomes not only an eyesore, but hard to live in. I mean, who wants to live with your backyard and your front yard lit up all night long? It makes it very hard to be there. And so I hope you'll take some of this into account.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Johnson. I live down in Sandalwood. And my big concern is the traffic. I'm not like the previous speakers where the light's a problem. But over the last years, while this temporary permit has been given, I've been inundated by problems coming out that side street from vehicles stopping in the middle of the street. I've 2 times about rear-ended cars where people have stopped and almost rear-ended because I didn't realize they ever stopped there. They have cars that park out onto the roadway. Their signs, you look at their traffic, and they have cars parked against stop signs on both entrances and exits. They don't apparently have to obey ordinances. And this is where I get concerned. When they're given this much leverage to do these things, what will they do in the future? When they build those subdivisions down there, the zoning commission and those people each time have promised us exits to the main thoroughfare. From the subdivisions on the west, they finally put a road in. To Chadas, they were going to put one right away out through the Jiffy Loop. In over 3 years, I'd ask, and someone on the city council said, we're working on it. We're having a problem with land or something. And then all of a sudden, we see a counter by Mr. Councilman Reese's business counting on that sign, and all of a sudden, we see now why that road finally got done after about 7 years. And this is my concern. If some of this is done, what will be done first? The city and the council and the zoning commission have a tendency to authorize all these developments without taking care of the infrastructure. For example, the roads, the subdivisions to the west didn't build the roads to the main thoroughfare, 600 South and the West Main in Tremonton. And I'm concerned that if this goes in, they put that road in next to them, on 600 that might work, I don't know. But I do know that in the past, those developments have not been completed. They sit idle, and for one reason or another, they're never completed. Until some businessman perhaps, and like in this case, wants the road, then all of a sudden a road gets finished. And I get concerned even on my place when I tell people how to get to my house. It's difficult now, but now if they do that, well, you go over to 7 West, come down the road, come west, go south, or you go on the other side and weave in. Plus, my concern is going through another subdivision where there are children and other people who create another problem of danger, plus emergency vehicles that have to go through that. And so my concern is that it be followed through completely prior to. I don't want to see another thing where we do this, we build the development, we build the building, do the changes, and then all of a sudden, whoops, we've got a problem. We can't finish this road here, you're stuck. And so for me, I think it ought to be followed through completely and not just was talked about. And that's where my concern comes here. We get very little information, and we're supposed to talk on it, and yet we don't know what is planned or what the time is on it or anything. And so I would appreciate if the council would bring up those specific facts before they develop this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have one question that I didn't ask. What is the status of the Stubb Street?
Why don't you come over here?
The Stubb Street from 650 or 700 West to D. Madsen's front yard? Does the city own that, or have they abandoned that? Because when we went through that thing with the roto milling, we were told, first off, we were told that the city had abandoned it. But they couldn't deed it to us because there were 3 owners. There's an owner on each side and then one at the end. And the city doesn't plow it. They don't maintain it. I pay to plow that street for myself and the widow that lives behind me. So I was wondering what the status of that street is and where that's gonna go in all of this as well. If they're gonna push snow out onto that street, you know, from that lot or whatever, we need to know that as well, because I'm not gonna pay to shovel their snow.
We don't answer questions. This is a public meeting.
We
We're
aren't
just listening
answering.
tonight.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
we'll get that information
Thank you.
for you, okay?
Thank you.
Lisa Skinner. We were right on that main place. As far as when, in the earlier meeting, when Sean said that we got letters, we are probably the one that will be facing Crumps as much as anyone, and we did not receive a letter. Neither did Dee Matson on the back side. And so she didn't know this was happening until we have investigated ourselves. It would be the same type of concern ever since the dealership has been there. We have had excessive people driving through our driveway. And as far as Reed and Mary Summers, they have had extreme amounts of people walking through their carports and those kind of things. And so that's what our question would be, like, is there going to be any kind of fence? Is there going to be any kind of, you know, like the lights? All of those things are our concern as well.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's John Losey. I'm here on behalf of Tremonton Center, which is the commercial development just directly to the north of this. We have some concerns because we have previous planning and engineering that has been done and approved through the city that lines up with 650 West. And we haven't really had enough time to go through and look at the economic impact that it's going to be to us to re-engineer that, move our entrance down to 600 West and such. I think that it's possible to find a middle ground where we can work through all these issues, but I also think that we need a little bit more time. I would encourage the city council to essentially table this for a time that they see fit, but allow us to have more time to go through and find out what the actual economic impact is going to be to us, because with the last few days that we've had, we just haven't been able to come to those numbers yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Ron Crump. I'm the guy that wants this, and I'm apparently the bad guy today. You know, we want to be good neighbors to these people. We don't want to be difficult. It is my understanding this is zoned for the use that we want it. We will address their concerns. I mean, I'm assuming we can get minutes of this meeting and we can address these questions that they brought up. But you know, this works. Some of the problems they describe are going to be taken care of by this happening rather than this not happening. You know, people stopping on 650 because our cars are across the street. If we leave the road where it is, the cars are still going to be across the street. There's still going to be lights in that lot. There's still going to be all this activity going on. The difference is there's going to be traffic going up and down the road instead of the road that we propose, so there'll be less there isn't gonna be any more traffic or any less traffic going back to Sandalwood between the two roads. So there isn't an increase. I mean, the traffic that goes back there, but we are not opposed to tabling this for what you see fit. We've already had a few meetings with some of the affected people. We believe we can get to a common consensus and we can get to where we need to, but, you know, this is not the time for me to address all of those concerns, but recognize we want to be good neighbors for these people while still conducting business. And I'll answer any questions these guys got. If they want to come into the dealership or give us a call, we can address those things, and we'll address them if we get copies of the meeting minutes if they'd like us to send them a letter explaining our plans. So.
Thank you, Mr. Crump. Anyone else? The public hearing is now over. But we do have one more public hearing since we're on a roll tonight on the Edward Beam Justice Assistance Grant Program for the purchase of one DFib Lifeline AFD and pads and one Night Optics Vision monocular. And this is a new thing that we have a public hearing on this. Who knows about this? Sean, do you know about it?
I do. It's just, it's a JAG grant. The city's been receiving these grants for years. This year, though, they're requiring or requesting that we put this on a agenda so that the public is made aware and is allowed to provide comment on it. And then more specifically, that the council is also aware of the proposed grant. So we have received the grant, and this is the proposed equipment that we would purchase with the grant. So.
Okay. Any public comments on that?
I have a question. How many of these defibrillators is the city looking to get?
Sean?
Well, we have this, this grant would pay for one. I think we currently have, is there 3?
There's 2 at the police department, 1 at the senior center, and 1 here in the city offices.
Okay.
So there's 4 total out there right now. The 2 at the police department are all the ones that are with the officers and calls.
And you wanted one in each public building.
The public has access to, we thought that would be a good idea.
And so how many buildings do we have?
I think we would just, after the library, what would we be looking at? What else would we be
Public
looking at?
Works is probably the last real public use.
So one more, I imagine.
Any further comments? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. This is the public comment time. Any public that want to address the council on any other assorted issues? This is your chance. Okay. A discussion and consideration of approving the October financial statements. Any questions on that, council?
Make a motion, we approve the October financial statements.
Motion made by Lyle.
I'll second it.
Second by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion and consideration of approving the October warrant register. Questions on it?
I'll make a motion. We approve the October warrant register.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Lyle, seconded by Diana. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion and consideration of the appointment of a library board member. And
You got that name?
what, Aurea Birmingham.
And let's see, do we need a motion on that? I move that we do appoint Aria Birmingham to the library board.
Any further discussion, council?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, discussion and consideration of adopting ordinance 18-19, vacating the public street of 650 West between 100 South Main Street and accepting real property for a new public street aligned with the existing 600 West between 100 South and Main Street. Council, any questions?
Make a motion that we table ordinance number 18-19 until there's further numbers gathered and more communication given to everybody that's involved here and concerned until we can talk things out.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Lyle Vance, seconded by Lyle H. Any further discussion?
I'd like to make a comment.
Comment, please.
We had Stokes Trucking come in with that nice trucking facility out there, and they worked really closely with the community and with the neighbors, and it ended up being quite a win-win, and so it can be done. You know, businesses and neighbors can work together quite well and come up with some really good solutions, and I think that was a great example of a business and the community trying to work well together. So,
do we have a time how long we're tabling it, or?
To the next city council meeting. When is the next city council meeting?
So that's on the agenda. I'm
January.
hoping that we can meet on the 18th. We do have some city business to transact, if that's okay with the council. I'm not sure if they'll be having the numbers, but we can certainly put it on the agenda so that those who are here, are aware of it. We can talk about what we do know at that time.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we need to
no,
do?
it's just a
Not on a
Not on the table.
Not on a table?
I don't think so.
do we?
We usually do.
Oh,
We
okay.
usually do a motion.
Brett, aye.
Oh, we
Lyle
do?
H. I.
Oh,
Jeff Reese abstain.
Diana, aye.
And Lyle Vance, aye.
okay, thank you. A discussion and consideration of awarding the bid for the Moab River Trail Phase 2 at Home Green Nature Preserve and Trail. Sean, do we have anything more?
No, not unless there's questions.
No, do we
Talk
have
about
any
it in
questions?
Work session.
Paul?
Just if they had any comments.
So the total cost of the whole thing is 164.
If we do all three schedules and look at the low bid, it would be 154.66. The engineer estimate was 189.829. If we award Schedule A to the low qualified bidder, that would be Wardell Brothers Construction of 58.404. If we award Schedule B only, the low bidder is Rupp Trucking at 69.550. If we award Schedule A and B, the low bidder would be Rupp's. I don't have the total there, but looking Rupp's would be the low bidder total for that one. If you award all three, Rupp's Trucking is the low bidder for all three of those schedules. And like Sean had said earlier, our recommendation would be to do A and B, because then it does complete that loop and make it more a walkable trail. Instead of walking up and having to turn around and walk back the same area you walked. You'd walk up, go along the east side of the river, and then on that west side of that downhill at the base of that, toe of that hill there. It's on the east.
I have one little concern. It's quite a walk without anywhere to go if you have problems.
Yeah. The problem is you're back up at the top of the hill at the restroom. So,
Yeah.
and there's really no way to put a restroom, and even, it would have to be a solar type outhouse toilet at the bottom.
Well, not even a bathroom, but there's not really an out if you decided, I can't go this far.
I would say this,
I'm not against this, I'm just thinking, gosh, if somebody's had a problem or at all, there's not a second exit.
There's not, but there is good access as far as it being drivable. The 10 feet, it's a 10 foot.
You just have to
width
crawl
for
up
it.
the mountain, right?
Well, if you had a cell phone, you could call for
Help.
assistance. And the PD or the recreation or whatever could come and assist, because
Yeah.
you will be able to get a vehicle down the trail. The problem is turning around on the trail. You know, they'd have to back out unless they were in a side-by-side or some kind of a wheeler thing like that. So, yeah, I understand that concern, but, I mean, as far as the width, it will be drivable width, but especially with the four-wheeler or side-by-side unit. So, yeah, someone will want to know their limits
Mark's got
before they head down the trail.
You know, if you go to any other outdoor mountain range, it's miles and miles and miles of trails for people. This, like a half mile at the most, out back. I don't feel like this is a real concern. But
Okay.
I think they'll want to
I'm
know.
just getting old,
I mean,
you know, I
everybody will
think
want to
of
know their
these things.
limits before they head down there.
Okay.
Limits from the restroom facility, limits of, can I make it down and back without tipping over? So, I mean, this is just the schedules for you guys to consider. It's your, in my mind, it's your consideration.
Council, what do you think?
It'll be wonderful. It's just, like I say, I'm getting old, I think of those things.
I remember when I talked to Intermountain about the trail and that, and the expectation was we were going to have a nice trail down there, and they invested that money, and so I'm all for meeting that expectation.
And there will, I mean, I don't think we showed it in there, but in the future as it develops, there'll be places for people to sit and take a rest and those type of things along the trail itself. But
Can you explain the grant? It's one for one then, so if it's a total of 130,000 for A and B, that means it's going to be 65,000 that we got to come up with as a city. And you've already got 45,000 earmarked.
Well, so this is being funded out of our special revenue fund for parks. It's essentially the money that we receive for impact fees that provides the revenue. This is an impact fee eligible project. It's a project that's been conceived, you know, for 30 years, essentially all the way back to the city's first general plan. But more specifically, it's included in our capital facility plan. And so, as of today, or as of October, I should say, as of October, the city has received $42,000 in impact fee, which is ahead of projections. So I anticipate that the cities will essentially this year receive sufficient impact fees to pay our portion of the trail project at $65,000 essentially with that aid of that grant.
Where else do we pull it from if we don't get it all?
So the budget had anticipated just, you know, because we looked at a real conservative approach to the budget, essentially pulling it from an interloan fund, which I don't think is going to be necessary. You know, one is we estimated a higher amount for the actual cost to construct the trail, and so the trail is coming in a little bit lower than we anticipated, along with the grant, and a little bit higher than anticipated revenues and impact fees. Essentially puts it in a scenario where you will essentially fund our portion through impact fees from this current fiscal year.
Any further discussion, council? What do you want to do?
Well, I make a motion that we approve the resolution to do schedules A and B and award it to reps.
Okay, we have a motion by Brett.
I'll second it.
Second by Diana. Any further discussion? All in favor?
It's a resolution.
With the resolution?
Yeah. Brett, aye.
Lyle H. I.
Jeff, nay.
Diana, aye.
Al Vance, nay.
Motion passes. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Discussion and consideration of adopting Resolution 18-50, approving the first amendments to the interlocal agreement between Tremont City Redevelopment Agency and Tremont City, authorizing the Tremont City Redevelopment Agency to receive tax increment from the Tremont City Community Center Development Project Area, plan dated the 17th day of March 2015. Do you have any further questions on this?
So it's just a correction, one number correction, correct, Sean?
Yes.
So we're just cleaning it up? I make a motion that we pass.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Lyle Vance, second by Lyle H. A roll call.
Brett, aye. Lyle H. aye.
Jeff, I.
Diana, I.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Thank you. Discussion and consideration of adopting Tremont City Council annual meeting schedule for 2019. Any questions on it?
Make a motion, we adopt it.
I'll second that.
Motion Lyle by Brett, second by Lyle H. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion of Tremonton City secondary water analysis of existing services connections. Do we need to even talk about this in here?
Not unless there's questions, I don't think.
Council, do you have any questions?
I think we covered it really
In our
well.
previous meeting, I think we got it covered, don't we?
But if maybe maybe you can kind of explain what we're doing for the public.
Sure, just real quick for the public. So the city's been working towards, based upon our water needs, the creation of a secondary water system. We believe that this provides the best water security going into the future. And essentially what we did in this analysis that you see on the screen is essentially export our billing usage, or the usage of water that we billed for the month of July in this past July. And essentially we exported it and that database and into a new database that essentially plotted that billing usage, that billed water usage onto a map and created a chart. So it gave a real accurate view of what's being used for water based upon a geographic location, and helps us determine how best to construct secondary water system based upon the amount of water that we would save in our culinary system during the outdoor water season. So Bragg provided the technical expertise to help make it happen, along with Shari exporting the data into this. So you can see the map, and you can also see the chart that summarizes it.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, I think kudos, that was an amazing chart, and that's the kind of data that we really need to push things. I am a little concerned. I've been doing some analysis on fees, and they're looking a little higher than I had anticipated. So I think before we move on to grant or bonds and all that, we really got to get this fee schedule buttoned down, especially before we go out and purchase much more stuff and all that, and make sure it's still within, at least find a way to make this work.
Sounds good. Any further comments, discussions, council? Okay. Calendar items, do we have any calendar items that we need to be paying attention to?
There is Friday, Friday, December 7th. So this Friday, if you have an interest and availability, you're welcome to attend a tour of Aspen Grove. It is the RV park here in town, and Carl would welcome you to spend a half hour with him, and you're welcome to join him for lunch. He just more or less wanted to explain and show the work that they've done. And from what I can see, it looks like a nice facility. I think his goal and objective was always to actually cater to and create a park that kind of met today's modern standards for RVs that were larger. And it looks like he's done a good job.
Is it done?
I think they are. I think it is open. I think they do have.
It's open. It's pretty close to being done.
Is it?
Probably some stuff they have to do in the spring, with landscaping, but for the most part, it's done.
All right.
So if you're interested, let me know. I'm getting a head count. We have some county people coming, and
what time?
11:30. And then there's some upcoming holiday festivities, Thursday, December 13th. Put that on your calendar. Same place, same time. And then just the senior center directors, a few events around her to honor her upon her retirement, or with her retirement.
And when is she retiring?
In January 15th, I think is the last day.
She was concerned because, did we find somebody to replace her?
Yeah, I know she has been concerned, actually.
Yeah,
So,
talk to me about that.
I spent a lot of time, Mark and I, relative, at the senior center, and we also actually went down to Salt Lake County and spent some time talking to them about aging services. We talked to Brigham City. So we've been doing essentially some work to get to the point where we are at now, which we have put the job description together, we have advertised, we have a closing date of January 7th, the first round of reviews.
That's getting close.
Well, we won't have a new director by the time Marion leaves. But I've talked to the staff, and the staff believes that they can carry operations, and even in the interim. There's been times when Marion obviously hasn't been able to work, and the lead cooks have been there upwards of, one of them's been up there, I think, 25 years. 30 years. Anyways, they have a great staff, Jenny included, who also steps up and helps to fill the void, and all of them felt like in the short term they could essentially keep operations going while the city finds the best candidate. So that's where we're at.
She wasn't a short.
Well, she does a lot. It's going to be hard to replace her.
Okay.
I agree with her on that, but we'll do the best we can.
When will the, is it out there? Is the application been, is it public? Publicized? Where do they find it?
Our website, our workforce services website.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Get the word out.
Okay.
Anything else? That's all our calendar stuff? Okay, past assignments. Do we have any assignments that we're missing?
Do we need to talk about serving at the senior center for their Christmas? 21st?
Yeah, we probably should put that on our agenda. On the 21st.
11, what time?
10:30 if you want to go deliver meals to people's homes.
Yeah.
Or 11:45 if you want to do it.
All right. City manager report, Sean?
I think I do have some items. Let me write it down. Oh, I was going to let you know that that on occasion, the Utah Local Government Trust, when the pool is operating successfully and there's less losses than anticipated, they're able essentially to give us a premium relief, which they've done that, as I mentioned, at least 3 times, I believe, since I've been here. With this latest check being issued to the city forthcoming, and I think it's upwards of $8,000. Yeah, $8,000, close to $9,000. Essentially, they'll get back to us based upon what we pay into the insurance pool and what they feel like they can provide back to the city. So, yeah, I just thought I'd make you aware of that. So we've already talked about the grant specifically, but if you have any comments that you want us to know about relative to that, we'll certainly welcome your comments. And then we talked about meeting on December 18th. I hope.
Is that a problem with council?
It is for me.
I thought that was January you were playing.
December 18th too.
Holy crap.
I'm good. Oh, it should be good.
We got it. All right.
Sorry.
We'll miss you. And then we are working on, actually, right now, we have out to bid BR Mountain Road and the water line that would be on the the Western Main Extension, and essentially, those are two items that we wanted to have on the upcoming 18th agenda. So I just want to make you aware that those items were out to bid. So. And then lastly, we haven't had really any development review committee meetings. Not really. We have not had any development review committees for several months now. So nothing to report as far as it relates to development applications with the board taking action.
Any department heads that want to comment?
Only if you have any questions over those charts that we included, that I can email out for you. Not just
They were
shows
good,
our
though.
water use data and their wastewater information.
Very informative.
Development Review Committee, we haven't done anything to that, have we?
That's what I was saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Paul, October water and wastewater info, do you have anything to add to us?
I just, if you had any
Do you
questions.
have any
I'd
questions,
answer.
council?
No, I appreciate the reports.
Reading.
Yeah, we'll be getting November's here in the next week or so. We get everything wrapped up.
Council reports, Brett? You know, did you guys get that email that I sent, or Lindsay sent to you? It was, as we look at this stuff over here that Brody put over here, and it was from that Water Conservancy District, the Central Utah Water, which verified everything that you were talking about here. Did you guys get a chance to look at it? And it was just exactly what Brody was trying to teach us. So, he is such a stud. So, we don't have any closed session stuff here? We don't, do we? I know we do, but it's on the flipping agenda. Okay?
I'm starting to worry about you.
No kidding. We need to, one more motion for this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Lyle Vance, second by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, we didn't change it.
All right.
Going to RDA?
Going to RDA.
Hey, Sean.
Mayor, if you guys don't need me for the RDA.
Do you have anything to say to us, Dustin?
No, good job. Excellent, good meeting.
We got you here this whole time for that.
I didn't fall asleep at all, so that's a strong city council meeting.
Were you watching a movie
the whole time?
And some basketball games.
A little basketball. All right. You don't have anything for us, Dustin. I'm sorry to make you
No.
feel neglected.
That's what I'm here for, and as questions do arise, especially as it relates to the road vacation, don't hesitate, so.
We ought to have two.